the individuals leading our current societies exhibit a certain high degree of narcissistic tendencies. This means that the people following these narcissistic leaders and power structures, you and me, are like an emotional supply to them and, therefore, like in a narcissistic relationship, are exploited extremely on an emotional level. All to serve the narcissistic top of the pyramid, their profound lack of emotional self-value and their need for grandiose display of an inflated, but hollow character. Our current society, its organizations, and the political establishment are primarily structured in a pyramid system. At the top, we have narcissistic individuals with authority, power, and decision-making authority. At the bottom, we have the people following the rules and laws of the pyramid society. You and me. I would like to elaborate on the theory that this top-down structure, including the individuals at the top with power and command, resembles the archetype of what we call a narcissistic person. To what extent can we compare the current pyramid society and those at the top with individuals who exhibit narcissistic tendencies? Many people in positions of power, whether in government, corporations, or other institutions, exhibit behaviors and decisions driven by unresolved childhood traumas. If we consider this through the lens of emotional development, much of humanity's leadership can indeed be seen as influenced by unhealed children within adult bodies. Childhood trauma that, in this case, has led to the development of narcissistic tendencies. Here's why. Trauma's role in leadership aspirations. First, we have the drive for power and authority. Individuals who lacked emotional safety in childhood may unconsciously seek positions of power to compensate for feelings of helplessness or inadequacy. Being in command provides them with an illusion of control over the chaos they once felt. Secondly, ego-driven leadership. Leadership rooted in ego often arises from a need for external validation, a craving for recognition they never received as children. Decisions are frequently made based on personal gain, approval, or maintaining dominance, rather than serving the collective good. And third, avoidance of vulnerability. Traumatized individuals may resist authentic emotional connection, as vulnerability triggers feelings of unprocessed pain. In governance, this can manifest as impersonal policies or an inability to empathize with the struggles of the populace. And ultimately, the little traumatized child energies in power. With a scarcity mindset, leaders operating from unresolved trauma often perpetuate systems of competition and inequality. The fear of not enough love, resources, validation, translates into hoarding wealth, prioritizing profit, and maintaining rigid hierarchies. And prioritizing control over collaboration. Trauma conditions people to see the world as threatening, leading to authoritarian approaches. They may struggle to trust others or embrace cooperative solutions, favoring dominance over dialogue. Furthermore, we have the projection of inner wounds. Unhealed leaders project their unresolved pain onto others, often scapegoating groups or individuals as a way to deflect from their inner conflicts. What are the implications for humanity? If leadership is predominantly shaped by unhealed trauma, it perpetuates cycles of dysfunction on a societal level. Policies and systems prioritize control, profit, and power over empathy, equity, and well-being. Humanity is steered by leaders who operate from fear and scarcity rather than love and abundance. Collective progress is hindered, as healing and transformation are deprioritized. My guess is that we can only be led by unhealed child egos if those who are controlled, we, the common people, agree with this power structure in some shape or form. Those in control and command will not likely give up their power position, and will not be convinced to change their status quo. Which raises the question why the general public is so obedient to follow up the rules, laws and guidelines drawn up by traumatized leaders. This means the general public is also, generally speaking, still in the energy of the traumatized child, believing in the absolute wisdom and power of parents. I guess most people still see, from a childhood perspective, the government or other in command of some kind of all-knowing parental energy they can trust, unjustly as proven in real-life practice. These dynamics we just described reflect a profound interplay between the unhealed child ego of leaders and the similarly unprocessed childhood conditioning of the general public. And how does the general public act as the inner child? First, with the projection of parental archetypes onto leaders. From an early age, children are conditioned to see authority figures, parents, teachers, and later governments or leaders, as all-knowing and inherently trustworthy. This belief often persists into adulthood, especially in those who have not questioned or healed from their own childhood experiences. Secondly, by applying unquestioning obedience. Many people subconsciously associate authority with safety and order, even when authority figures fail to deliver either. This need to trust authority can prevent critical thinking or resistance, as questioning leaders might feel as destabilizing as rebelling against one's caregivers as a child. Third, through dependency on external guidance. Trauma and unhealed inner child energy can foster a sense of dependency, where individuals believe they lack the power or agency to make decisions for themselves. This dependency is mirrored in societal obedience, where people seek validation or direction from external structures instead of cultivating self-reliance. The codependent dynamic between leaders and followers, how does this look like? Let's look at our leaders as alleged parents. Traumatized leaders often embrace this dynamic, presenting themselves as strong, protective, and infallible, qualities the public, acting from a childlike perspective, desperately seeks. Leaders may exploit this dependency by creating fear-based narratives, for example, economic collapse, security threats, that reinforce their indispensability. We, the general public. The followers as obedient children. The general public, driven by unresolved childhood patterns, may unconsciously accept leaders' authority as a substitute for the safety they once sought from caregivers. This dynamic perpetuates cycles of obedience, even when the leadership is visibly harmful or ineffective. The illusion of safety. Blind trust. People may cling to the illusion that leaders have their best interests at heart, much like children want to believe their parents are infallible. Fear of chaos. Questioning authority might feel like stepping into chaos, triggering survival fears rooted in childhood experiences of abandonment or neglect. How to break the cycle? Awakening to the illusion. People must recognize that many authority figures are not wise parents but rather individuals acting out their unhealed trauma. Awareness is the first step toward reclaiming personal sovereignty and critical thinking. Work on empowering the inner adult. Healing from childhood trauma allows individuals to develop their own sense of authority, no longer relying on external structures for safety or validation. This shift from child energy to adult energy can inspire collective empowerment and resistance to dysfunctional power structures. Decentralizing power structures. Encouraging grassroots movements, community-driven initiatives, and concentric societal structures can reduce the concentration of power in the hands of the few. These models emphasize collaboration and mutual respect, replacing hierarchical dynamics with shared responsibility. A reflective question. If we accept that the public mirrors its leaders' unhealed energy, then transformation must begin both within individuals and communities. How do we encourage people to step out of their inner child state and reclaim their sovereignty? Above all, by encouraging the shift from obedience to autonomy. Critical thinking education such as equipping individuals with tools to question authority constructively. Schools, community programs, or even content creators can focus on fostering critical thinking and discernment. Promoting healthy rebellion. Adolescents naturally rebel when they sense injustice or hypocrisy. Humanity's puberty should be encouraged to channel this rebellion into constructive activism rather than destructive conflict. By challenging the illusion of all-knowing authority. Expose contradictions in leadership, highlight inconsistencies or failures in leadership in a way that inspires dialogue rather than defensiveness. A questioning populace is the hallmark of maturity. Celebrate decentralized wisdom, emphasize that no single entity holds all the answers. Promote the value of collective intelligence, where diverse perspectives enrich decision-making. By reclaiming sovereignty and responsibility. Foster emotional and spiritual maturity. Adolescents transition into adulthood by learning to take responsibility for their actions and emotions. Humanity needs similar tools, emotional healing, self-awareness, and spiritual grounding, to evolve beyond dependence on external parents. Localize empowerment. Encourage communities to take ownership of local governance, resource management, and problem solving, reducing reliance on distant, hierarchical authorities. By redefining authority as guidance, not control, model transformational leadership, elevate leaders who embody empathy, humility, and service over ego, power, and control. Such leaders act as mentors, not rulers, akin to an elder sibling guiding an adolescent. Teach the art of consensus. Adolescents learn to negotiate boundaries with peers. Similarly, humanity can adopt collaborative decision-making practices, like participatory democracy or restorative justice systems. By providing safety nets for the transition, address fear of change, adolescents often cling to familiar structures for safety. Humanity, too, needs assurances that breaking free from old systems won't lead to chaos. Building transitional systems can provide a sense of stability. Normalize mistakes and growth. Puberty is messy, and so is societal transformation. Create spaces where people feel safe to make mistakes, learn, and evolve without shame or punitive consequences. But, above all, people need to start to see through the narcissistic games of those in command. We will have to acknowledge that our leaders often lead by gaslighting, manipulation, deception, and blame shifting, primarily to create an illusion of power and safety or to inflate their own character and outer appearance. They pretend to care about others, often using love-bombing tactics during election times, and may appear as the ultimate savior for the problems they created themselves in the first place. How do you expose a narc? By seeing through its tricks and no longer buying it. And like a magician whose secrets behind their tricks have been revealed, they will leave the stage in a hurry, ashamed and hollow, as they are. Hasta la vista, baby. Not even maybe. Thank you for watching.